Hey, vinyl community, Jeff here, and yes, it's still one of those days. It's my future so bright that I gotta wear shades. While things look a little better in the facial area today, they still are not camera ready. So hey, cool dude time. Just assume that I look fine. Anyway, so yeah, I wanted to do my what's spinning, which is a thing that I had started doing last week, and wanted to show what I was spinning last week. Normally I would try to do that yesterday, but then I jumped on that contest instead. And there's another contest that I'm going to jump on right after this. So, but let's get into the what's spinning. So these are, just things that I was playing through last week, and it gives me a time. There are some new things in here too, so that I hadn't shown yet in a video. So this is a what's spinning and what's new video, but I've spun them, so they're spinning too. Of course, I was still spinning the Accuser albums. These came in week before last or so, and they are still getting time on the turntable. I won't spend much time on these because I covered these in a separate video. So both of those came in. They're hot new releases from Brutal Planet Records, first time on vinyl, etc., etc. Kind of German thrash type stuff. I went back and I pulled out. This is what Thor album before last, or maybe 2 albums ago. I'm forgetting now. And was listening to this. I'm a big fan of Thor, and there are a few spots on here that. On pretty much it seems like on every Thor album there's just a couple songs that probably shouldn't be, and they stand out as being weaker than the rest, and so they kind of stood out on this. But this was still a good album. They got a whole new band, bunch of new young guys in the band that's working with Thor, and it musically just was really a impressive step up. So I was giving that a spin. This is, I don't know if I showed it. It was one of those things where it dropped on Amazon, and so I grabbed it. The House of Lords Anthology. I've had the CD of this for years since it came out, and it has a bunch of tracks that were unreleased, as well as, early versions and stuff. And so when they put it out on vinyl, they put out just mostly stuff that was, they have a couple live tracks in here, but it was a little more. It was more picked some of the more studio sound quality stuff. It's just a great album. It's typical House of Lords, but it's got some of the earlier feel stuff on it, and yeah, I just really dug that. And it came out. Oh wait, did I show the? It was released on vinyl, and it came on the pretty gold. Kind of like the Thor album. I guess they were both on gold. I think they're both the same label too. All right, so the other day I was in the not a thrift store. Well, not thrift store, secondhand store. I've been to the store a lot. They have books and albums and CDs and videos and DVDs and all that stuff. So I go in there periodically. This is the place that I hit a big mother load of 80s stuff in there not too long ago with all the Phil Collins stuff. Next door to the thrift store. So anyway, I went in there. That's got a label on it. And I'm flipping through the new stuff they got, and this stood out as being out of the ordinary because it looks homemade. I had no clue what it was. Wrist Rocket. Sailing the Seas of Regret. Immediately looks like, independent released. Now, I mentioned this in another video that I didn't pick. Chris over at Record Talk, and I said he showed some punk stuff, and I said, I found an album the other day that screamed punk, and then I looked it up on Discogs while I was in the store, and it listed as a punk band. They had no other information, but it does, everything about it is very generic. But then, I noticed the album itself was a nice, kind of a splattery, kind of a swirly, splattery, not swirl, but yeah, kind of marbled color. So but it's a 2010 release, just in a J sleeve type thing. It folds over here, white thing. It's got a little insert with lyrics. No label. Label's just red. It just has some words on it like the label name or whatever. And it turns out, I looked it up, and as far as this, what it says right here, Richmond, Virginia. So I'm like, okay, so they're a local band. Richmond's hour and 20 minutes or so from here. And I didn't buy it because when you go to this store, this is the store where if you buy one, they're 5. If you buy 3, they're 4 each. So 4 for 12, 3 for 12. So I'm thinking I want to buy at least 3. I couldn't find 3 other albums. Didn't buy it. Mentioned it to Chris. He's like, yeah, I would have bought that sight unseen just because it looks so cool. And I had it in my hand and carried it around the store and didn't buy it. But anyway, it made me go back the next day. Well, I had to drop my daughter off. She works next door, so I go there now more. And I dropped her off and went back next door and grabbed it. And I wouldn't say it's really hardcore punk. It's kind of just kind of an indie, kind of rough and stuff. I did notice the volume on this is like really low, very much self-made. It's, the volume was it just sounded like a low output sound. I want to give it a more listen. It turned out to be got some rough spots on it. It looks like on one side, but it's got the same album, same songs. There's like 6 songs in there on both sides. So I want to go back and play the other side. Pick this up. So this is some of the first new stuff I've gotten in a while where I've actually went out and, outside of Amazon and bought something. And I got this from Animated Insanity Records. I buy stuff from them periodically, and I tend to go through their catalog and look, and I think they're the ones I got all the Rod stuff that I showed months ago, and they get some of those imports and stuff, so I go to them, and they also put stuff on sale for a really good price. Well, I went looking for this album, and this was the only one that I paid full price for. This is The Warrior with Vinnie Vincent. So this is before he joined Kiss. He was working with these guys from the band New England. Now, New England band was the band they opened for Kiss actually when I saw them in '79, and Gene and Paul Stanley produced one of their albums and stuff. But by this time in the early '80s, I guess the band were kind of, this is '82, they were starting to work on some new stuff. Blah, blah, blah. Long story short, they got Vinnie Vincent on guitar. They changed their name to Warrior, started doing something in a little different direction. So it's funny, some of the riffs on here made it to later Kiss songs. There's one on here where the verse is, on the 8th day, is the verse feel for Boys Gonna Rock. It's like, oh, that sounds like a Kiss song, and then all of a sudden it kicks into a different chorus. But there's some stuff on here that harkens back to that. But this is some stuff that Vinnie Vincent did. There is a second album out by them, not on vinyl yet, but this one was released by Night of the Vinyl Dead. So it is very limited. Out of 400 copies, I've got number 171. So I noticed Animated Insanity had it, and I went ahead and grabbed it. It was full price, so these imports are tough. I grabbed that. So while I was there, I'm looking through his catalog, and of course I'm finding stuff that's, records and double record sets that are $10 to $12, and I'm like, okay, I got to get some of these. Hammers of Misfortune, 17th Street. I was familiar with their earlier stuff because, was it Metal Blade or somebody reissued a lot of their earlier albums somewhere in the past 10, 15 years, and I ran across them, and at times they've got a doomy feel. They're not aggressive vocally. They're kind of sludgy, but kind of doomy, but kind of just straightforward alternative type hard rock. Anyway, I knew that I liked a lot of their earlier stuff, and so when I saw this double record set for, I forget, it was cheap. It's on black. It's a 2011, I believe. 17th Street, 180 gram. So I thought, well, I'm going to grab that. So I've been listening to this week. Good stuff. It's just got a good middle of the road groove to it. This one was really cheap too. Another double record set. Never owned anything by him aside from his work with other people, and that's Devin Townsend. I've seen a video for this. I follow Samus the drummer on YouTube, and he's on this. And basically, I didn't really know what this was. I saw the video, thought it was cool. Didn't really understand the album, but this was, it says right on the album, it's a Galactic Quarantine. So what they did is they recorded this album during quarantine from all different places in the world, and alive. It was like a live stream, I guess. And from what I understand, I guess they played in different locations, and they did a live concert. So this is a recording of that. Obviously, there's no audience really, so it's not like it's a live album. So it sounds good, but it's got the live feel and the fact that they're, interacting, talking to the people in the live stream and stuff. Just kind of, how y'all doing? Double record set though, good price. So grab that. Another double record set for a great price, and that's the new, the new Arion album, Transitus. I've listened to Arions for many, many years, pretty much all their albums, and so they're very rock opera type, and they just got more and more and more into that. Lots of actors, lots of singers, lots of different things. This one actually comes with a graphic novel, or comic book as we used to call them, which I assume tells a story. I need to read it, but nicely done. A lot of bands are doing. I don't want to open it too far because it's pretty tight binding, but Comes with the comic. It is double record. It is on red. I've had my eyes on this for a while. Their album, it's been a decent price for a while. Even back in the day when it was coming out, I was like, this is only maybe a year old. What year is this? 2020. As you can see, it's got a cast and actors and singers and storyline and all that stuff. And they've done this quite a bit. One of the first ones that they did, actually it's the same guy, but he did the Star one, which was a cool play type thing. But Arion itself has done a lot of stuff, space themed stuff. And they've all went like that. James Labrie from Dream Theater has done a lot of stuff with him. There's just so many albums he puts out, and they're all along the same line, just telling a story, concept albums. And so that one was a good price, and I'm like, I'm going to grab that because it was cheaper than I've ever seen it. So now the next two are what part of the title of what I say is this as far as would you sell it. So here's what happened with these. On Discogs, when you click that you own an album, of course, on Discogs, if you're familiar with it, down on the bottom it says how many people have this album, and it says, 10 people have this album, 100 people have this album, 1,000 people have this album. You click on that, it'll show you the names, it'll show you the account names of those people that own that album. So occasionally you'll get somebody to write you and say, hey, I see you have this album, would you be in any way interested in partying with it? Had two of that type of thing happen in the past week. And so I pulled them out to listen to them again. And it's a tough decision. Depending, I've done it quite a few times. Sure, I'll sell it because it's things that I just have, But these two were like, oh, this would be hard. Crucified: The Pillars of Humanity is, limited. I forget how many there were. Is it numbered? Limited release. And I was able to grab that in the early days when I picked up, when I was first getting back into vinyl. And so they are a punk, kind of a thrashy punk band. At this time, they were a little less punk to me, and a little more just heavy with a little punk influence they were. But the tough thing was, I really love Crucified. The other tough thing is I have all of the vinyl releases that they have, which is really only, three or four. So, the Completist didn't want to let go. The Completist of me didn't want to let go. And the fact that I know it's hard to find. There were, I think, a couple renditions of this, and I've got the clear one. Maybe there was only this one. I don't know. Their early stuff was on like a single because punk stuff was short and it was on a single, and then they had another album, and then I got this, and so I just was like, but I finally wrote the guy back, and I'm like, I'm a big fan since the 80s also, and I love the guys, and I have all their stuff, and it would really be hard to part with, but I'd love, it sounds like you're a big fan, and I'd love to be a blessing to you if if you want to make me an offer. Turns out, he had written a bunch of people, which is fine, but one person he did write was one of the guys in the band who did have one and sold it to him. So yay! I didn't have to release it, but the guy was like very thankful. He's like, thanks for even writing me back, and be willing to even entertain another fan with that. And I'm like, yeah, no problem. Yeah, great stuff. Same exact thing. A couple of days later, somebody contacted me with a desire to purchase my Balance of Power by Undercover. Now, this was a 2021. One of those, Kickstarter type campaigns that I helped fund, and then of course COVID slowed it all down, so we were waiting a long time. Absolutely love this album. Undercover started off as a pop punk type band, and then later went into more of an alternative punk feel, and by this time was kind of straight up alternative. And so this one and the Devotion album, which both were Kickstarter type plans, both got reissued on vinyl. Devotion first, then this one. This is the most recent one, and absolutely one of my favorite albums by them. It's got a nice splatter here. They had multiple colors, and I wrote the same thing back. And the guy said, I'd be willing to pay high price for it. I wrote him back and said, this is a really tough predicament because I really love this album, really love this band, supported the Kickstarter, waited the years to get the album through the whole system. But again, I said, but it'd be really tough to part with, but, I'd be willing to entertain the idea, just because sometimes you can be bought, and I hate to think that, and I probably would have not done it, but I wanted to let him know, okay, the door's open, I guess, because I know that it's just things, and if somebody else really, really loves it, maybe he's younger, he'll love it longer than me, I don't know, but anyway. He wrote back and said the same thing. Hey, I actually wrote a couple people, and I found somebody who's willing to sell his, and I thank you. But he said, I thank you so much for writing back. Hey, and then we started talking Undercover. Hey, did you know they've got back together, and they're playing a show coming up? And I'm like, yeah, I did. And I shared with him a video of a recent show they did. And so anyway, yeah, just you know, you make friends that way. But I just wanted to be, you know, I wanted to be helpful, but it's a tough call. Would you sell an album like that? I mean, what would it take to? I mean, I'm not here to say, yeah, you give me $1,000, I'll sell it. Oh, definitely would sell for $1,000, but not looking for that. What would it take for you to sell an album that maybe you feel is something that you really, really like? Is it something you could part with? You know, I got a lot of albums. I think I could part with them, even though they're near and dear and I really love them. But what do you think? Share your thoughts below. I'll be back for another one later. I got a contest coming up for somebody to enter, and I will see you then. Rock on and rock hard.